So to try to cap off October right, I wanted to do something that would be a good crossroad between Halloween and fighting games. A personal favorite genre of mine, if it wasn't already obvious. And you know what? I actually found a perfect match for this. Thrill Kill, a PlayStation 1 title and one you may or may not have heard of. Thrill Kill never actually managed to make it to store shelves, it being considered far too violent and perverted for 1998. Thrill Kill was cancelled just before its October 1998 release, even in spite of being 99% finished as the devs claimed. Which, I mean, I feel like if a game is that close to actual completion, you might as well release it to make some money, you know? But did it deserve its abrupt cancellation? And what's the backstory for this strange game? Well, let's get into it. The backstory for Thrill Kill is actually kind of weird, truth be told. Thrill Kill was developed by Paradox Interactive, whose roots for the game was a fantasy sports game based around that Mesoamerican ball game where you gotta bop the ball through the stone hoop. You've seen Road to El Dorado, right? That game. And if you haven't seen Road to El Dorado, well, what the hell is wrong with you? The game was to star ripped Aztec warriors smacking the ball about, on top of having an additional focus on beating the shit out of each other with punches and kicks. Assumingly, the losing team would also be sacrificed to the sun god Huitzilopochtli. Corn. We're just gonna go with Corn. Virgin Interactive, the game's publisher though, pressured Paradox to make the game more violent, however, and realizing that uber violence would be more fitting for a fighting game versus a sports game, made the pivot into the genre. I guess these guys had never heard of Blood Bowl. After this pivot, Virgin also told Paradox to can the Aztec theme, meaning they now had a game that had shifted through two vastly different genres, and now was directionless when it came to its art style and theme. That was until a producer from Virgin Interactive marched into the offices of Paradox, a stack of fresh fetish pornography in hand, and announced that these BDSM magazines and DVDs would be the art focus of the game from now on. Virgin wanted a more edgy, violent, and erotic direction for the game, since it would generate controversy and sensationalist headlines by default, similar to how Mortal Kombat brought in a ton of press due to its gory nature. Virgin, however, didn't really give any real direction for the story, so Paradox was just handed a big box of pornography and told to make a video game out of a bunch of dominatrices and people in gimp suits disemboweling each other. Regardless, Paradox Interactive began development on what would become Thrill Kill. The violent and erotic nature of Thrill Kill actually did work out though, it drumming up a ton of attention and interest for the game. It even managed to take a most popular game at the 1998 E3 event. So the change in direction did actually manage to help instead of just making everybody roll their eyes. Around this time though, Thrill Kill ended up getting slapped with an adults only rating by the ESRB, which resulted in certain elements of the game being toned down so it could make that M rating. If you're not aware, an adult only game can pretty much be sold nowhere. Certain things being toned down, like a fatality from Belladonna being shifted from simulating oral sex to just being tickling their feet. As the game approached release though, Virgin Interactive ended up being acquired by EA, who deemed the project too controversial and kneecapped the game in spite of it being basically done. Thrill Kill would never see a legitimate release thanks to this decision, unfortunately. What is fortunate, however, is that the game was leaked on the internet by a few developers and became everybody's favorite fetish-based fighting game. Thrill Kill was also never toned down as a result of this cancellation, so it's still technically an adults-only game in its current form, hence why I was able to just show you that blowjob. It even managed to accrue a bit of a cult following as well. This wacky backstory made me want to check it out, so yeah, let's get to the game proper now. Thrill Kill's story is pretty simple. A demon goddess of secrets, Marukka, is struck by a fit of boredom one day as she was ruling over hell. So to entertain herself, she gathers 10 damn souls to fight in a tournament for another chance at life. That's pretty much it. Those 10 souls ripped from their eternal damnation are your playable characters, 8 available by default, 2 unlockable, and Marukka is playable as well for an odd 11 character roster. There's a gimp too, but he's just a training dummy, so he doesn't even count. The roster is a collection of murderers, freaks, and sexual degenerates, obviously. Each of these characters also have 4 different costumes apiece, with a 5th unlockable after you complete the respective training mode. Except for the unlockable bosses, they don't have an additional outfit for some reason. So let's go over these silly little characters, since that helps pad out the video runtime. Belladonna is the game's dominatrix. Banished to hell after murdering her philandering husband, Bella met her end when she electrocuted herself with her own cattle prod. She fights with said prod, and moans to start off every round. Kane is an arsonist. He died in one of the buildings he torched took him with it. Fortunately, he makes up for that stupidity by having the most spooky costume in the game.
Spooky, scary skeleton.
Kane throws fire all over the place and can even fart fire too, since why wouldn't he, I guess. He also has a grab where he lights your fart on fire.
One simple word. Dunkle. You said dunkle. Now you have to say uncle in my butt. Ah!
Cleus is a cannibalistic backwoods hillybilly who, in life, ran a meat processing plant. When a health inspector threatened to shut him down, Cleus tossed the inspector into one of the vats and made him into sausage, which he sold. He would later die from eating tainted human flesh, and seems to be carrying the leg of his last victim, using it as a bludgeon in combat, on top of being a skilled kick fighter, apparently, as well as a biter like a Wachuchu, too. Dr. Faustus is a mad plastic surgeon who slapped a bear trap on his face for some reason, and loved cutting up his patients, on top of giving them the bear trap mouth, too. He'd later die from that trap that was grafted to his face. He stabs the crap out of you with scalpel, so that makes him pretty unique and relevant to his given occupation. The Imp is probably the most infamous character in this game, being a dwarf leather daddy who died after he had stilts surgically attached to his legs. Funnily enough, the Imp doesn't seem to have done anything that would have made him deserving of going to hell. I mean, I've read around that he really hates tall people, but that's it. Heck, his ending points to him being depressed about being a dwarf more than anything. Mammoth is... Alright, I want you to look at this character and try to come up with a backstory real quick. I'll give you a moment. What'd you think of? Well, I guarantee it's absolutely not anything close to his actual backstory. Mammoth was a postal worker who went nuts after being fired and beat a grandma as well as her cat to death. He probably got fired when they realized he was a skinned gorilla. I know he's supposed to be the token big, strong guy with lots of damage on the cast, but why did he always look like this? Couldn't this monstrous form have been a punishment in hell or something? I don't know, it's just kind of weird. Oddball is a real... card. Former FBI behavioral analyst who went nuts and became a serial killer due to his constant exposure to them. Unique to him is his lack of arms, whether they're tied up or missing entirely in his outfit. So he of course busts out his long background in funk breakdancing to defeat his foes. Tormentor is the character with the most interesting backstory for certain. A judge by the name of William Whitefield, Tormentor would acquit criminals from their crimes just so he could capture and torture them himself. For penance, I assume, not his own pleasure. He was executed for these crimes, so now he's whipping people's asses in hell instead. Last of the default characters is Violet, circus contortionist who died from a spinal cord rupture. As for why she's in hell, well, it seems she was sexually assaulted by a guy when she was in her dressing room and killed him in self-defense. This event understandably gave her a nasty case of misandry, but I mean, being damned to hell? Really? That's not very fair. This universe must take the fifth commandment very seriously. Violet, as I said, was a contortionist in life, so a lot of her moves surround her unnatural flexibility. Sub-boss-wise, you have Judas, a set of conjoined twins who are fused at the waist. Once again, another unfair case. It seems Judas's only crime was their mother dying while giving birth to them. Unless you could suss out them doing it intentionally because of some latent evil, which I don't think is the case. They're interesting pairing since their attacks are bound to one another, and the two sides flip constantly to give you access to the different moves. The last playable character in TK is Marukka herself, demon goddess of secrets, and your last challenge before you can set your damn soul free. She has an invincible spin move like Kung Lao, and is a pretty adequate candidate for best Dami Mommy in the game. From there on, you have a few modes of play, of course, most importantly being training mode, which doubles as a moveset trial mode as well, and arcade too. What would a fighting game be without that? Gameplay-wise, Thrill Kill is a 3D brawler type game akin to Power Stone, though it does predate that game by a few years. Fights have anywhere between 2 to 4 competitors and take place in these fairly tight cubicle arenas, which range from a scuzzy back alley, to a padded cell, to a dirty meatpacking plant, and to my favorite arena, a dirty bathroom. Also, there's a prison cell, and the first time I saw it, I swear to God this was a picture of Chris Chan. The environments in this game are, well, dirty, dark, and dreary. Befitting of this one, truth be told. Honestly, the graphics in this game are serviceable, but they don't really compare too well to other games from the time, like Metal Gear Solid, Crash Bandicoot 3, or Tenchu Stealth Assassins even. It's more erotic horror style though, definitely does make it stick out however. So I mean, I guess Virgin was correct with the art direction. Reminds me a lot of Hellraiser, truth be told, which I think the game took influence from. I have to say that the sound and music complement this game pretty well too. Musically, you get this thumping industrial techno beat that's really appropriate for the surroundings. On top of that, there's some very crunchy, good sounding sound effects in this game too. But how does the game fare when it comes to its gameplay and controls? Well, you have 2 punches and 2 kicks mapped to your face buttons, obviously. D-pad handles walking, dashing, and running too, giving you some decent mobility. And your L1 button crouches and L2 blocks. 1 block button. What a novelty after Ravenloft. You also have grabs and parries, which are done by pressing certain face buttons together. Shockingly, the controls in this game are actually pretty good. They were more loose, which is a good thing in my opinion. I never had any issues with the execution, meaning I could breeze through the trials in this game and it can easily translate over to the game proper. Even 360 motions weren't too hard to pull off. I was doing this on a D-pad, you know? I was even able to pull off some rudimentary combos that did decent damage and were kind of fun to pull off, truth be told. There's some crazy potential here, I think. Why does this weirdo softcore porn game have better controls than 2 actual licensed properties? The goal of a match, though, is to beat your opponents hard enough to fill your thrill kill meter, this bar right here. When a character fills that bar, they go into an enhanced mode for a temporary bit of time. During this time, your opponents are completely unable to defend themselves. They can only run away and tear from you, since if you catch them, you perform a fatality on them. Called a thrill kill, this move instantly kills whatever idiot wasn't smart enough to get out of your way. This also eliminates them from the current match too. Gotta be honest though, I think the violence in this game is kind of disappointing. Okay, so let's talk about the aspect that got this game banned real quick. The turbo violence. It's weird how actually tame it is. I am saying this as a guy who loves gore in movies and games, but this game seems pretty muted with its violence at times. Your normal strikes and grabs only occasionally draw some squirts of blood. For a game that was canned for its violence levels, you'd think there'd be a bit more here. I guess fatality wise though, each character has a good amount of blood squirting from their thrill kills, though 4 of them are shared among each member of the cast. A decapitating uppercut, a killing blow that explodes your opponent, a ceiling splat uppercut, and a wall splat hit. These are kinda boring, truth be told, but the real uniqueness comes in the final round kills. These thrill kills are unique to their characters, thankfully. Each character has 5 unique finishers, 3 fatalities, 1 brutality, and 1 dance. Except for Violet, she only has 2 fatals for some reason. These have specific button inputs to perform and are pretty fucking rad, truth be told. They really do bring the game up to snuff with the likes of Mortal Kombat's for sure. Honestly, the only really annoying thing about the fatalities is that they have to end every round. And it gets a little repetitive seeing the AI do the exact same fatality again and again and again when the game has so many different ones, you know? Not to mention the little lightning striking you cutscene also is completely unskippable. You'll have a chance to use each of these too, since in a normal arcade run you have 8 stages to get through. 6 4-man free-for-alls, 1 fight against Judas, and the final fight against Marukka. 4-mans are incredibly chaotic and fun, although they can be a bit frustrating at times since the AI uses parry constantly, which will absolutely blast you to the wall, so try not to just swing recklessly, especially when you're pinched in a corner like this. To talk about some negatives real quick though, Thrill Kill is definitely lacking a change target button. You do have an auto target lock on, but you're not always targeting the person who's beating your ass. The AI also has a pretty fun habit of singling out the player in combat too. Clearing the arcade mode will reward you with a CG cutscene. These are pretty funny, I can't lie, though I'm not sure why clearing the arcade mode rewards me with a cutscene of why my character went to hell in the first place instead of what they did when they returned to life. I feel like that'd be more appropriate at the end with the reason for being in hell in the first place being at the start of an arcade run. But yeah, that's Thrill Kill in a nutshell. Kinda sad this one got kneecapped before it's released. EA's given reason for shit-canning Thrill Kill was, quote, it being a sadistic killing game, as compared to something like Mortal Kombat, which is a fighting game at its core. Kind of a cop-out excuse in my opinion, but apparently EA was trying to fight the stigma of video games being mindlessly violent murder simulations back then. EA also blocked the sale of Thrill Kill to other video game producers like Eidos who were interested in the project, which it seems odd to do since the game was so close to completion. With how much traction this game got, you'd figure EA would want some money from the project. But I guess EA had no other stakes in the project other than owning Virgin Interactive, so they hadn't really spent any money on it anyway. Not to mention the violence is pretty tame. I mean, I say that with the hindsight of watching way gorier stuff now, but this wasn't all that shocking to me. At the end of the day though, it's a pretty fun little brawler to play, something you can probably get the most out of with you and 3 friends having a bunch of violent little rumbles. As for putting it on the fighting game list, well, it's more of an arena brawler versus a traditional 1v1 style fighting game which I want to rank, so I'll be leaving it off the worst fighting games of all time. It wouldn't be worse though, it'd probably be more towards the top, that's for sure. Thrill Kill wasn't a total loss for Paradox though, its engine being used for a bunch of games they would later go on to make, like Wu-Tang Shaolin Style, X-Men Mutant Academy 1 and 2, and Rock'em Sock'em Robots Arena. If you're looking for a degenerate arena brawler this Halloween season, well, grab a ROM and have yourself a spooky violent time. As always though, my friends, my name is HadesManticore, and this here channel is City State Manticore. Thanks a ton for watching, of course. Leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed this video. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see more. Have a very happy Halloween, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Goodbye.